are live. Eric Butler, we are live. This is real. Welcome back to Unauthorized Opinions, uopod.com. Like, share, subscribe.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way.
An unopened can of orange soda just chilling in the parking lot. I was like, yeah, I gotta vote for Trump, dude.
It's great here, a lot of fat chicks and a lot of screaming.
Your podcast sucks. It's mental, mate.
Everything is going to be all right. Eric Butler.
All right, we made it.
What are you, in a subway station?
Yeah, this is the New York City subway car that I'm in today. I didn't
In
realize
honorarium of crimes of Christmas past?
Yeah, I didn't realize how grainy it was. I was running around a little bit. Sorry, running late again. It's a CPT as they call it, but typically I'm on time.
CPT?
Colored people's time.
Wow. Okay. Let's just blow past that. Eric Butler of 1342 Alameda Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, it sounds real, doesn't it? Tucker Carlson tapes. The Tucker Carlson tapes, since he left Fox News, they have been doing whatever they can. Some producers released tapes of him. Somebody else released text messages, of course, and they've had text messages of him before. They tried to say that he was, talking bad about Trump, and they're very lacking in context, which is why you probably didn't hear about them that much, because he was actually trash talking the lawyers for the Stop the Steal campaign,
Sidney
Powell and Lynn Woods, I believe. He really doesn't like those lawyers. And look, no matter what you thought happened in the election, we have our opinions that we expressed on this show many times, which are cough, cough, wink, wink. They didn't get anything done, these guys, just like Carrie Lake didn't get anything done. So, and you know how I feel about who's the Republican. I shouldn't even say her name, but there's a Republican lawyer who claims that they're protecting elections. Don't worry, there's so many lawyers on standby to protect the Arizona election. Yes, I wasn't going to say her name.
Oh, I didn't.
But
I think you had a.
Okay. There it is. So, yeah, these lawyers don't tend to accomplish a lot. They have big names, and that's what Tucker was talking about. Now, Media Matters released these tapes of Tucker Carlson, and I'll bring it up right now, the tweet thread, and it is by a guy named Matt Gertz, not to be confused with Matt Gaetz. So as we can see, he is a what? Senior fellow at Media Matters Foundation of America. Now, these organizations always have fellows and fellowships, Eric. I don't even know what they mean. Do you?
I do not know.
Well, very good.
It sounds like a money laundering scam.
So keep in mind that these are supposed to be damaging tapes. Media Matters works in damaging people, and these are supposed to be damaging tapes. Let's take a look. Okay, we don't want to play. We'll be right back. Don't worry, we have contingency plans for this. I don't know why that one's just not showing. It's just showing as black. So we'll just try again. Is that gonna
Everyone
work?
in this company.
Huh. It's only showing up as blank screen. Media Matters has contingency plans beyond us. We can use the Twitter source. Not to worry. Go ahead.
Well, some people are saying that these are like deep fakes or something like that. Is that a possibility?
I don't think so, because they're so non-damaging.
Everyone in this company is thrilled that you're doing.
Is it showing for you? It's showing a black screen for me.
Yeah, it's just got the little wheel. The wheel is spinning.
I'm not. You know what? I'm not qualified on that score, I will say.
This one's working.
I thought his girlfriend was kind of yummy. Just kidding. Just kidding. In case this is being pulled off the bird. Yeah, the bird. Hey, Media Matters for America. Go fuck yourself. That's the first thing I want to say tonight. Second thing is, totally kidding. I don't even know what his girlfriend looks like. And if I did, I would not find her yummy. You wouldn't? Okay.
So that's one of them. It seems like the other one's working for me now, but the fact that Media Matters posted Tucker Carlson being able to predict that they might get a hold of the footage and flipping them off and swearing at them, that's supposed to be some sort of own?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all so predictable, right? Like Media Matters has been amongst them, right? It's been a running gag with guys even as fence sitting as like say Tim Pool, right? Like obviously Matt Walsh has gone back with them for probably a decade now,
Mhm.
and they're just so predictable that they've become a parody of themselves, which is what happens for the entire cult basically, right? Like when you see the green hairs, or even right now in New York, you look at the protesters and they look like a parody of themselves. They look like a meme.
Mhm.
They're not even trying to break the mold. They're not even trying to be unpredictable. They just go with what's it's all just so predictable. So yes. And look, I will say, I will admit that it was Tim Pool who I believe made the argument that those could possibly be deep fakes. I don't think they are either, but it's like, are we that deep into where Media Matters would go that far to smear somebody? Is it beyond the pale? I don't
I don't
know.
think that's beyond
Have
Media
we
Matters,
reached that
but
point yet?
I also don't think that it's deep fake, because wouldn't you make it a little bit more damaging than that? Like, as opposed to
Well, you
just,
start off.
well,
You
here's the
start off
next
with
one,
something
Eric.
that's believable. Okay.
Thrilled that you're doing this. I've gotten more calls from people about it.
This is him talking to Piers
I got
Morgan.
to say, when I came to New York a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't believe how welcoming and friendly everybody was. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, they really mean it from the owners on down.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to see it. I like that. It's a good, people are nice in this company, I think. They've always been nice to me anyway.
I completely agree. Everyone's been very, very friendly and very nice, and I really appreciate it. But thank you so much for coming on. It's fantastic.
I bet that doesn't change. Of course.
Yeah. It's just great to have you on my show. I mean, I've been on yours enough times. It's great.
I think it's totally cool. So let's, if we're going to talk about sex, I'd love to hit some of the fine points of technique. But it's your show. It's totally up to you.
We can certainly talk about your sexual technique, especially after your tanning testicles last week.
Not mine. We'll speak in more general terms, but I've got something to add.
So that's tape number 2. That's literally just, they're setting up the shot for him to be on Piers Morgan, and so damaging how he joked. Eric, like, no, it's funny, and something I've noticed on a few different things. And what was I talking? It was Tim Pool, now that you mention it. He was talking to that turfs guy, whatever their extremely weird guy podcast is. And the guy tried to make, this moral argument about, he called Tim Pool weird for caring about like genital mutilation in other words, of course. And he's just like, why do you want to talk about Jazz Jennings' privates? And he's just like, very, very good attempt with the moral argument there. And it's like, and the guy's admitted leftist. He says, I stand firmly as a leftist. I'm a proud leftist, label myself as that. So when I say leftist, this isn't just my judgment. They are of the viewpoint that there are no sexual boundaries. We all have our opinions on what they say about the age of consent and everything. You know what I'm saying about that? And pansexual and all these different sexualities you're supposed to embrace, and Pride season now it's called. But as soon as something like this with Tucker Carlson comes up, all of a sudden we're supposed to be like, oh my god, can you believe he made a sexual joke? Meanwhile, it's almost June, Eric, and there's going to be hogs a swinging in the streets for months all across North America and everywhere. But Tucker Carlson makes a joke about uses the term sexual technique, and we're like, we got him. Eminem, that's what Media Matters probably calls itself inside the office. Eminem wins again. Have you noticed that sort of thing happening?
Yeah, well, there's obviously look, it's no secret that it's not a two-way street, right? So they'll use anything. I mean, a joke with Piers Morgan is enough for some lady, one of his ex-producers or something, to say it was a hostile or sexual environment. And then I read into it a little bit, and you can fact check me on this, or maybe I should have sent it as per usual, or you can look it up as we speak. But she also said that it became anti-Semitic because one of the producers or something demanded that they leave the Christmas decorations up on a day that she wanted to take them down, and they wanted to leave the Christmas. So they're going to use any possible thing to smear Tucker, as if it matters at this particular point in time, right? Why can't they just take the W? You guys wanted him off TV for so long. Now he's off TV, and you just keep. I mean, you keep having to like trying to beat it into a paste, beat it into a pulp. Why can't you just take the W? Maybe it's because they know it's not really a W. And when a couple months goes by and these contracts are over, or the dust kind of settles, he's obviously going to be more powerful than he, on his own than he ever could be with Fox. He's already notably received $100 million offer over 5 years from the guys over there at Valuetainment, which I think do pretty good work. I don't watch all of their stuff, but they seem pretty level headed. I think if you were to ask Patrick Bet David, who I believe is the head guy there, he's not going to sit there and say, yes, I vote Republican, I love the right wing, I'm a conservative. But it's pretty clear that just being the common sense guy that he is, and making the money that he purports to make, obviously puts him a little bit right of center, no matter how you slice it. So these people they've all gone off the deep end, quite literally, and they don't realize, or do they realize? I never really know, right? Like they have to assume that leaking these videos wasn't going to. I mean, they're just preaching to the choir, right? They're trying to stir up their base. But did they think for one split second that any Tucker Carlson fan, any Tucker Carlson supporter was going to say, "Oh, that's it. I don't like this guy anymore because he said F media matters"? I mean, who did they think they were convincing with that?
Well, I think part of the plan is to pile on and make him, in a sense, unpalatable for even right wing sources to talk about. That's what they do when they get people on the back foot, is they go and they try to pile on and they try to make it seem as this person is so grotesque that you shouldn't even talk about it. And it works in some people. Alex Jones is somebody. Tommy Robinson is somebody. Who else? Andrew
Owen
Tate is
Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin, somebody. So they pile on Kanye West, obviously. They pile on with all these people. I mean, Kanye kind of did himself, let's be honest here. But they pile on so much on these people to the point where they hope that something sticks, and somebody at one of these big conservative networks at the top says it's too dangerous to touch on this person anymore. Whether it's Alex Jones with Death Hook, Owen Benjamin is a comedian who said some, let's call them socialist jokes. Who else did I mention? Tommy Robinson, because of like Muslim stuff, and the list goes on and on and on. And they basically, I believe, just want to make it to the point where people think he's too risky on establishment right wing media to talk about or talk to. But that's not going to work, because people like what people see of him, they don't get scared of. And it's at this point where I think the tide has more than begun to turn. We are in the upward movement of the first half of the tide, where people say, oh, somebody's offensive, let's hear more of them. And we've got another
Yeah, but
video. Go ahead.
well, I mean, they've been trying to do this to Tucker for what, a decade now. I mean, this is completely not. I mean, this is not new, and Fox News is arguably the standard of quote unquote conservative media, and we can see that they're. Look, I don't have all the statistics, but as I understand it, they're sort of losing a couple viewers. So if 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 what was the standard of conservative news is hemorrhaging viewers because they lost Tucker, then yeah, I guess to your point, that should sort of pinpoint the pendulum starting to swing the other way. Am I right? I mean, that's it. That was the platform that he was on, and those viewers don't want to watch that channel anymore. So your tactic to get him off the popular channel, I guess it worked, but it's also just proving that people don't care about your agenda, your little boycotts anymore. Now,
Yep.
Bud Light, as far as that boycott is concerned, it seems to still be going, but that's a different story.
It also tells me that people care a lot more about individual content creators than they do, air quotes, audio listeners, than they do about the network that they're on. People are going to follow him. There's one more video. Let's see.
Well, I feel great. You know, I can never assess my appearance. I wait for my postmenopausal fans to weigh in on my IFB. What? They want to control me from afar? Okay, I'm putting the leash on. You can... Fuck it, we'll do it live!
So that's it. That's the 3 videos. Sexual maneuvers with Piers Morgan, FU Media Matters, and postmenopausal fan base. I mean, a lot of seniors watch Fox News. Seniors who watch news tend to just leave it on the one channel and never change it, whether it's CNN or Fox. Sorry to tell you. And then the other thing is a reference to Bill O'Reilly.
Attest to that. I can attest to that from literal firsthand experience. Like, I won't name any names.
He's not naming names. He got blacklisted at Hop Sings.
The nice one. The older generation that I'm familiar with, they leave it on. Okay, maybe there's 2 they switch back and forth from, but I mean, we're talking all day until maybe at the end of the day, and then switch to sports channels, which of course have been hijacked by the agenda as well, right? I mean, we saw what was it? It was only a month or 2 ago, the classic meme of Stephen A. and Max Kellerman saying black man, white man.
Yeah.
This is, you know what I mean? So it's all been hijacked, so it doesn't even matter.
I showed you what they watch here, which is a channel called CP24 for the Canadians here. And that's just, you've got your traffic here, your weather here, your ticker at the bottom, and your fast-paced news lies, and then your person on screen reporting on just, they do it so fast, you must be like, this must be like the bare bones facts of the news, but it's not. And I read earlier today at a website called Blaze Media that inside sources, of course, these are unnamed sources, as they always are, told Axios that Tucker is going to start his own thing or work for a competitor. I mean, that's pretty low-hanging fruit in terms of an analysis. If you were to ask, Joe Schmo or even Joe Dirt on the street, you'd say, what do you think he's going to do? Well, maybe he'll join a competitor, or maybe he'll start his own. That's a $1 million commentary right there. Yeah. So it's
he might go left, but he could go right also. Or could be up, but it might also be down.
Might also be down. Robot Chili says hello. Hello, Robot Chili. Please super chat. Please subscribe. Please do everything else we ask you to do. We can ask you to do that stuff now. Like and subscribe and show feed as well. Getter, Twitter, YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Go to our patreon.com/UOPod. Subscribe on there. We have a secret podcast every week that drops on there. And of course, if you're an audio listener, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon Podcasts, even, or iHeartRadio, you can go to uopod.com and go through our links, leave us a review, and of course, you will get that extra podcast in full video, in full color HD at uopod on Patreon, patreon.com/uopod. Now we're going to move on to LeBron James. He is thinking about, Eric, buying a major media brand, which is what again?
Complex.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I thought this was funny because it's news now that they're thinking about it. Like,
that means they put it out there.
Yeah, so it's also funny that the Washington Examiner is putting like everything behind a paywall now, and it wasn't even like that, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. Not the point.
That was Wall Street Journal, I think. The link you sent me is Wall Street Journal is behind a paywall. Washington Examiner, this is through Microsoft. So
yeah, so you can read it on Microsoft, but I believe, and maybe not this one, maybe not this particular one, but a lot of their stuff has been hidden behind a paywall. Now, I don't know. I have never heard of any way to get around it. It's completely impossible. So there's no way you can actually read it without coughing up the cash. Neither here nor there. So LeBron James, apparently, now I didn't even know that Complex was owned by BuzzFeed.
That's never a good sign.
That makes sense because Complex, look, I grew up back in the day when Complex was a actual magazine, like you would buy it at the grocery store or something and like look
The
through it and
grocery
see all
store
the,
sold Complex.
yeah, I mean, it's a magazine. Like you just go like to the magazine section when you were a kid. Remember that? Like Slam magazine and Kicks
Well,
magazine. And
actually, Eric, when I was a young lad, I was buying Mad magazine. There was a magazine that was ripoff called Cracked. I did buy the odd sports magazine, maybe even a wrestling magazine when I was a kid. Eric, remember those?
Vaguely, but I was definitely more into like because they were covering the sneakers and Supreme and all that kind of cultural stuff. So I guess my point is I didn't realize that Complex was owned by BuzzFeed, but it makes sense because you can watch. I've watched over the past couple years Complex go deep into the we are establishment hack shield mode. Like before, it would just be about new Nikes, new Jordans, Yeezys, and now it's like, oh, Florida bans, a new Florida rule. You know what I mean? They clearly
Yeah,
got into the culture war, and it makes sense. So
Teen Vogue
now,
style or whatever.
exactly,
Activate
exactly.
all troops. Activate
It,
sleeper
you
cells.
know what? It was that's actually a very good comparison because it was basically Teen Vogue for, we'll say, the urban youth. Okay,
I
so
don't know what that means. Can you explain that? What is an
you know,
urban youth?
so think about when Teen Vogue. Think about their audience. Who? Before I answer your question, who do you think Teen Vogue is targeting with their propaganda?
Oh, teens.
Teen women.
Yeah, teen girls because they're very impressionable. And if you mix that in, Beyonce has a new hit single out if she still makes singles. By the way, climate change.
Yeah, exactly. So this was the very the opposite side of that propaganda coin. So for a suburban,
hmm.
perhaps
People
white teen girl
people under the
between the ages
urban, I get it.
uh between the ages of, say, I don't know, 13 and 20, something like that, 13 and 21, 14 to 21, or 14 to 25, I don't know. It was the exact same thing but for the urban youth. So
I did.
maybe a I think you can say person of color, but you can't say colored person. Not
You
quite sure
can
how
say
that goes.
whatever you want
Well, debatable.
in terms of colors. Want to go ahead
So
and read this? Can you see it?
yeah. So NBA superstar LeBron James might be getting into the media business, and I love that already. Might, like, just how, like, we have created this article all on hearsay. The four-time NBA champion co-founded the media corporation Spring Hill Company, which is rumored, again, might and rumored to
Mhm.
be eyeing the purchase of Complex Networks, according to a report. You want to open that report? Was that the Wall Street Journal report?
Let's find out.
Just out of curiosity.
No, it's from the street.
Oh, interesting.
We can go to the
Not-
source. We're going to go right to the source of the streets. Funny, on its own, this place would not be credible at all, but they just take it from a random outlet.
Yeah, so now that the Washington Examiner, by way of MSN, has cited the streets,
yeah,
it now becomes, and that's part of this, right? So this isn't just about LeBron James, who is clearly going to go all in on the agenda with him, his little buddy Maverick
who
Carter,
the hell is
but this is
that?
also Maverick Carter's like his little business partner,
Hmm.
and I'm sure it takes a 30% cut of everything LeBron James does or something like that. But yeah, so my point is, not only is LeBron maybe going to go all in on pushing the agenda because we know how he's a puppet of China, we know how he's a social justice warrior. This is also sort of a um sort of an analysis of how kind of crappy the media, which we already know has become, right? So they might and they could and possibly, but I'll continue. While there has been no offer put forward yet by Spring Hill, nor a formal negotiation between the two sides, James's firm has reportedly discussed offering $100 million for Complex, which is only a third of what BuzzFeed paid for it in 2021. So it hasn't even been that long.
No.
And they're already down $200 million. So this, I think, could actually be a good thing. I mean, BuzzFeed News, that sector went down. Vice, perhaps headed towards bankruptcy. So we're quite literally watching the demise of these establishment hack shield media outlets. And, you know, guys like LeBron are going to go in and try to save it. And then we have the issue of AI, right? I mean, we know that AI has a bias. Are these people just going to hire a bunch of folks to prompt AI to write, you know, left-wing garbage, and they're going to continue on that? Or are they actually going to pull back and maybe stick to cultural? I guess I shouldn't say cultural because it is a very cultural war, but are they going to back out of being in the war and just report on sneaker drops
No way,
and
not with LeBron
Supreme
James.
stuff? No, it's come too far. And we also know, I shouldn't say no, but I believe that everybody has come too far, right? So nobody is ever going to pump the brakes and say, hey, maybe we should stop alienating a certain portion of people that we're targeting. They can't do that. They've dug their heels in too far. It would make them seem silly to say, all right, maybe we went a little too far. Let's kind of put the train back on the tracks.
Well,
right?
LeBron,
And even if
I was going to say LeBron has wildly poor political views based on what we've seen and put forth with the voting stuff in Georgia when they tried to do this whole campaign about voter suppression. And it was literally stuff like you can't hand out, you know, water to people in line.
yes.
And what they're making closing the polls earlier, but they're actually expanding it to weekends and stuff and in different locations.
Just lying, basically.
Yeah, it was just very poorly done. And, you know, they call anything voter suppression if the stuff is changing. And that was basically his biggest foray into politics that I remember.
And have you noticed? I don't know if you've seen, I don't know what your algorithm is pumping out to you, but I've seen on my Instagram account several posts. I mean, it's become kind of a running gag of like 10 times LeBron was caught capping, as the kids say.
You don't
right?
say,
So,
Eric. Well, let me tell you that I had this queued up, you might say, and we're about to watch it right now.
Okay, perfect.
He just lies for no reason. It would appear.
He just lies for no reason.
And this guy is an English soccer player, if you're not familiar with him.
Oh my God, I'm
you
so
used to
glad you
say,
had this pulled
Put
up.
yourself in situations where you're not comfortable.
Oh
Play
yeah,
outside
that's my
of your
favorite
comfort
saying.
zone.
That's my favorite saying.
Taylor, you want to follow up? Yeah. So you're holding the autobiography of Malcolm X along with Alex Haley. I don't know how far you are into the book, but what's your biggest takeaway so far?
I kind of just started a couple days ago, but I've read and a lot of notes over the years. This is my first time actually reading this from start to finish.
Reading it from start. I just started,
but
but
very smart man. Very, very smart man.
So just no knowledge at all.
His words in the 60s and what was going on is actually what's going on today still.
Very, very, very smart man. Very smart.
Side note here, if LeBron James knew anything about Malcolm X and he was to say that this is what's still happening today, that would mean that LeBron James believes that the Democrats are using black people as pawns and they should not be trusted. Because that's what Malcolm X believed in. One of many things, of course, but that's one of the biggest things that he would say. So he's clearly not read this book nor actually watched any of the clips or anything of Malcolm X.
And, how powerful Negro can be. I use that word a lot. How powerful we are. But we have to unite, and we have to be together. We have to stand strong because there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be.
He just goes into an answer about nothing.
Things that's going to be thrown at us where they try to weaken us. They try to make us feel like we're not kings and queens.
Oh my! I watched the whole game. I seen the whole game. I was at home watching the game, and you know, I said he was going to. Before the game even started, when I seen, I said he was probably going to score 70 tonight. I don't know what made me say that, and my friends was with me, and they was like, okay. So when he got to like 70, I was like, well, he might as well go for 80 now. So,
wow, what a
I'm a fan of the
predictory
game.
comment.
Seeing that performance was unbelievable.
You lying?
Yeah.
You own 2% of Liverpool. How does that come about?
I read about the franchise and how amazing it is, and I actually made a trip over, to Liverpool as well and see all the sights and the arena and everything. So it was pretty unique.
Yeah, Crouchy is actually a Liverpool legend. He used to play there. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I knew that. I didn't get an opportunity to see him play when he was with the club, but I definitely knew that.
The current captain, Jordan Henderson, just scored his first goal for England the other day. It was amazing to see. You a fan of his?
No, absolutely, and I saw a clip of that too. I didn't get an opportunity to actually see the game live, but I saw that he was able to score one in the match the other day, and I thought that was
in the match
pretty unique. The fact that he would do that and then also be with Liverpool Football Club.
That's unique.
It is a question.
I just interject there because since I watch soccer, it's unique that the guy who plays for England, a lot of the English players tend to play for Liverpool. I'm sorry to tell you. It's just what's the point of lying?
It's just a weirdo, bro.
To the game, but since it has been a lot of publicity yesterday and today about Godfather Part 2, which is the scene or the moment or the phrase or the quote you like more from the movie?
Oh, from The Godfather. It's so many different phrases and too many different lines in that movie to just categorize one.
But which is the one which inspires you, represents you more?
I mean, each movie is 9 hours long. I mean, what do you want me to do?
So you didn't watch
it? I mean, it's so many. I don't know. I'll let you pick one, and I'll roll with it. It's a great trilogy.
Why this fool always lying, man? Why is he always lying? Now, he talk about when he ran over there for the beer, he said, oh, my momentum took me there. Let's listen.
My momentum just took me to the sideline, and I'm not going to run over our beer lady, you know.
Your momentum took you over there, and you ain't want to run over the beer lady. That what happened? Okay, let's see if LeBron's momentum took him over there.
Where is he?
Let's see if he's telling the truth.
Okay.
Okay, he's fouled there. He didn't make it. The play and his momentum is stopped.
He's underneath the basket, and then he
He's
just runs
jumping over there. He jumps over there and hopping, skipping, and jumping, and goes over there to the drink lady.
All right, I think that's about it there.
To the sideline, and I'm not going to run over our beer lady, you know, and she had one, you know, in her hand, so I took it out of her hand, but not much of a beer guy.
So he literally ran over there, Eric, and then he's like, my momentum took me. I don't know. LeBron's one of those guys who's so used to people kissing his ass his whole life, probably since 14, probably. He was gigantic as a teenager, was famous since he was 17, and, you know, he's just used to being able to say whatever he wants. When nobody contradicts what you're saying, no matter what, you probably don't know how stupid you sound sometimes.
So, with all that, I'm really glad you had that pulled up because that was unplanned. I mean, you had planned it. I just mentioned it off the cuff. But is this a guy? Now, we know. I think we can both agree that he's probably not going to be very hands-on if this transaction were to go through. Like, he's not going to be sitting in any board meetings or offices or actually trying to plan out how to, you know, bring this company back from the dead. But even if he were, is a guy who is a known liar I mean, amongst his fans, basically. We're not talking these. Do you think that video was put together by a hard right-wing Trump supporter, you know, DeSantis, like, you know, conservative guy? No, bro. That's just internet, you know, internet basketball fans and stuff who are constantly calling him out for always lying. So do we think that this guy is going to be good for any media outlet? Maybe, because it's par for the course already. We know that the media is constantly lying to us. So I guess in a weird way, it is an absolutely perfect fit.
Yeah, it's just you can't see LeBron exactly being in the boardroom and making complex decisions on a media company. I mean, he might have ideas as to where it's gonna, what direction he wants it to go in, but like for a media company, on based on what the content they're gonna put out, this will easily get out of hand to the point where people will start putting in their political opinions, and he'll have no idea unless it's
And look,
completely, we are non-political. This is what it's about. Then you can't trust people. If there's leeway, if you put some, if they want to put in some social justice stuff, which he'll probably want to do, and that's how it gets out of control. And that's how it gets out of control at Vice. I mean, Vice used to be straight up documentaries about stuff, and then what happened to it? Look at what happens to everybody when there isn't control over it. It goes wild. Look at any outlet.
well, I think, look, I'm gonna maybe defend LeBron a tiny bit here, and kind of like a look, bro. LeBron, the only thing he knows is basketball, right? I don't think he's ever actually had a legitimate thought about any of these positions that he's taken. I don't think he's ever, really looked into. I mean, you can see him lying about the book that he claims to be reading.
That's
He
not
doesn't
the
know
only time.
anything. No, of course. And then there's one I think where he was even holding it upside down or something crazy like that. But look, he gets his talking points fed to him by, I don't know, maybe it's Maverick Carter, maybe it's I don't know where it comes from, but in a weird way, I don't think he is making he's not making any, not even as far as the complex acquisition is concerned, but anything outside of basketball, he's just fed. Like he doesn't know anything, bro. And I mean, I'm not in a not I'm not trying to insult the guy, but it's like, do you really think that he knows about anything with any sort of depth, even down to the shoes that he makes with Nike? Do you think he's sitting there, he might sit there with one weirdo Nike designer and say like, "Oh, I don't like this color." You know what I mean? Like, the only thing he knows is basketball. And again, I'm not trying to insult the guy. Like, he's obviously one of if not the greatest basketball players ever, and he doesn't need to know anything else. He's just, the rest of it's all pretend. It's all handed to him on a platter. This is what you think about this. This is what you think about that. And I don't think he's not sitting down on the couch reading a book and learning and surfing the internet and understanding about anything. No, he gets his talking points and he just rolls with it. That's it, bro. So and why should he? Right? Just
I
as
think it was
one
months later that he was still like the same
for the
book.
first 10 pages.
Yeah, he's just holding it. I remember the upside down book. I'm just not being able to find it. Here's just another thing of
Yeah, that might have been Photoshop. That might have been. I mean, he can't be that dumb, right? Like, to actually hold it upside down. So that could
nobody
have been.
knows. Is this the same book over and over again?
No, Hunger Games, Malcolm X, but he never made it past the first
It's
5 or
always
10
the first
pages.
few pages.
Yeah, yeah. So, and look, and even these photos, somebody probably told him like, go out there holding this book. You know what I mean? Nothing he's done outside of play basketball has been authentically him. I mean, I don't see it. Like, do you
Why
do
would
you
a
really?
grown Go ahead.
No, I mean, do you think he sits down and thinks about anything? Maybe his family, but he's not.
You
He's not
know,
eyeball deep in any of these issues like me and you are. He doesn't know anything about anything.
well, first of all, why would a grown man read Hunger Games? Is question number one.
Because somebody told him to.
But I don't think LeBron James
Told
thinks
him to
that much
pretend
about
to.
basketball either, Eric. He was 6'8", 200 something pounds out of high school. He plays a power game, and the only improvement he's ever made to his game was shooting long distance. And that was what made him such a
He
good
had
player.
to do because of Steph Curry.
Well, he was a few years before Steph Curry, but his first year he couldn't shoot long range at all, and then he had to change. And it's not like he's this mastermind. He's not Michael Jordan. He's not Larry Bird. He's not Steve Nash. He's not. He can't do his complex thing in the air as other dunkers like Vince Carter of his time, Jason Richardson, all these other guys who've come and gone. You don't see him make really fancy passes. I think this athleticism comes naturally to him. He's very, very good. Of course, I could never do this. So neither could anyone other than like 5 other people in the world. But I don't think he's just this smart guy. And there's been plenty of players in sports that are not that smart guy, linebackers in football, they're probably way smarter. I mean, they have to remember plays and everything. I'm just saying that, like, you're saying all he thinks about basketball. I bet you he doesn't just think about basketball. I bet you he thinks about how great he is and how cool he is. And he also talks a lot about how hard it is being black. And I'm sure that happens all the time. We've got another video. It's
fair.
It's in line with Bill Maher.
Seems like crime.
I mean, in line with the New York crime. And it's
Bill Maher. Is Bill Maher going to say something racist here? Is he going to?
Yes.
Cite a crime statistic or something?
Yes,
Okay,
he's going to
all
say
right.
something like a peon, a human pylon could even think is racist, but like it's not actually, obviously.
Crime is kind of out of control. I was reading
Music. Oh, it froze on us.
that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases. Seems like crime is kind of out of control. I was reading.
This is what happens when this is why we're leaving this platform we're on, because this stuff happens all too often. Let's see if we can get it going here.
Cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million.
That's crazy that they actually release people
That is
so
insane.
much in New York that let's see if we can find that. Actually, 327 people make up the majority of the crime in New York City.
In a city of
Because
8
they
million?
keep getting returned to the
streets. I wish, like, this is so stupid, but I'll try uploading it again. But let's see if we can find that, Eric. I'm gonna see if we can find that. 327 was it?
327, I think, is what he said. Now, dude, New York isn't just okay. Obviously, they're in the news all over again because of the sequel, right? The Fentanyl Floyd 2 sequel. Okay, is it gonna
No,
play?
let's just give it some time.
Okay.
The Floyd sequel.
But I think, look, I think, and this I think is a glass half full take. To be honest with you, I don't think this is completely black pill. Wow! Shout out the New York Times. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you got it. I think that there is this group think, and there is this. Well, now when you watch the videos, it looks like a whole bunch of people, like, oh, like, we're gonna protest, we're gonna shut it down. But I genuinely think if you go to New York, and you can go to Washington Square Park, you can go to Central Park, you could even go to possibly Tompkins Square Park, Union Square, to places that are notoriously, like, what do they have, like these farmers markets and all sorts of hippie weirdo stuff. I think even they have grown sick. They have grown sick of the nonsense. And when you talk to somebody one-on-one, they're not going to buy it. They're not saying, yes, it makes sense for us to shut down the entire subway system because of a weirdo guy dressed up like Michael Jackson. And I know this is a little bit off topic, but I was just watching one of the videos of New York City right before we went live here. And it's just so crazy to literally watch them chant about, oh, the police are terrorists. And there's zero connection there. The entire thing was that it wasn't the police. It was a 24-year-old ex-Marine, I guess. I don't even know. Like, that's really young. I guess if you become a Marine, right, when you're 18, then you're done well before you're 24. But the point is, they have been so trained by this Trump Pence out now Soros funded nonsense that they don't even realize what the situation is, and they just go back into the chants about police, right? We saw it back in the summer of love when we did I Can't Breathe all over again. Because if you recall, I Can't Breathe wasn't even a Floyd thing. That was from Mike Brown or one of the other, BLM martyrs. So they just recycle this stuff. And even when this story doesn't involve a cop in the least bit, they say that cops are the problem. And then they want those very same cops that they have villainized to arrest a guy that didn't, that tried to take. So they tell us, we don't need cops, we can police our own. And then one guy tries to police their own, and now they want the very same cops that they hate to arrest the guy who tried to police their own. All while shoplifting is through the roof by a couple hundred people in a city of 8 million. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Nearly a third of all shoplifting arrests in the city last year involved just 327 people. Businesses say they have little defense. So it's a very successful crime syndicate. And how much you want to bet, Eric, that this is a situation like Batman here, where the people who steal all this stuff, somebody who has the ability to prosecute them is getting a cut of this stuff. New York City storefront businesses already weathering inflation and an uneven recovery from the coronavirus pandemic.
Foisted on them by the overbearing government.
Are
right?
also
They want to blame it on the virus, but it was the politicians.
Oh,
obviously.
in New York specifically too, are also contending with what the police say is dramatic increase in shoplifting. But stats also reveal a starting reality. A relative handful of shoplifters are responsible for an outsized percentage of retail crime. I'm not sure I agree with that rating. An outsized percentage. If any budding writers out there, if you are writing a story and you write a sentence like for an outsized percentage, and you think maybe people might not understand what I mean by that, just choose a different word. I know you're the New York Times and you think you're super special, but just choose a different word. Don't.
Yeah, I mean,
don't use.
It's going to be AI. It's going to be AI.
I'm being replaced sexually as well. Nearly a third of all we'll cut that out. Nearly a third of all shoplifting arrests in New York City last year involved just 327 people. Collectively, they were arrested and rearrested more than 6,000 times. What's our calculation on that, Eric? How good you went to a fancy school? What's that?
No. I don't know anything about math. I'm not going to do any math. But I will say,
that's 18.3 arrests per person.
So a bare minimum, if we're being conservative, a bare minimum of 18 times. And as I understand it, our good buddy Neely, AOC's new favorite subway rider, was arrested 40 times in a couple of years.
4 times
right?
the average.
I don't know the
guys.
I don't know the time span, right? It wasn't 1 month or it wasn't 2 months, so it was probably a little bit longer. But we're talking about 40 times. I think it was either 40 or 41 times that guy was arrested. And that's not to say I'm not defending what happened to him, right? I'm not saying, well, after you get arrested 40 times, you know someone's gonna take you out. But what I will
sad
say
that you
is,
have to like preface that, but continue.
No, exactly, it is, and that's where we've come. It's really sad, but it's very clear that he was, let's say, living life on the edge, right? Right. When you're putting yourself in and out of the system that many times, do you think everything else he did was on the level? You think he was, was he working on his resume every night trying to go get a new job so he didn't have to pretend to be Michael Jackson on the subway? Or is that just, you know what I mean? Like you're already living your life on the edge. Do we think he wasn't maybe using a substance, right? Like, I mean, look, and these things are not okay to say. Like you say, it's like you have to preface this and pretend, but it's like these are the facts, bro. When we have a story like this, and the average theft in New York, less than 400 of them are being arrested, an average of 18.2 times or whatever it is, 18.3 times, and this guy is getting arrested more than double that. Right? I mean, it's absolutely through the roof, and we're just supposed to pretend. And I'm looking at my Instagram, and I'm seeing Mother Jones and New York Magazine and the New York Times, and they are doing the exact same thing that they did with our good buddy, the patron saint of fentanyl, right? As they paint him. They put these pictures of him, these glowing pictures of him, in these drawings, these illustrations, these renderings of, how cool he was and how entertaining that he was. And so it's okay for them to point out that side of the story, but as soon as you point out the opposite side of the story, now you become the villain, right? So it's through the roof, and that is part of the reason why I have a very hard time believing that most of these people actually believe this, right? And again, I hate to constantly go back to it, but when I spoke to the original Summer of Love George Floyd protesters, they didn't say anything about Black Lives Matter. They didn't say anything about Trayvon Martin or any of these martyrs or Breonna Taylor or any of that stuff. They said, we're promoting overdose reversal medication. We're promoting Narcan, naloxone. That should be a red flag that they are clearly, because when you look into naloxone, obviously it's very heavily funded by the Open Society Foundation. Open societies, I always forget. Soros and crew, right? So I know that sounds very conspiratorial, but I think a lot of them, I mean, this is the war that we're in, bro.
Shout out viewer not intimidated. Make sure you subscribe, please. This part was a little startling, to use mainstream media terms. This is shocking. Some engage in shoplifting as a trade, while others were driven by addiction or mental illness. The police did not identify the 327 people in the analysis, so you know who the 327 criminals are, but you can't, and they've been convicted of crimes, but you can't release their names. The victims are also concentrated. 18 department stores and 7 chain pharmacy locations accounted for 20% of all complaints. So they're going after the same stores over and over again. Petty thefts are one of the main drivers of the city's overall crime rate, even as murder, shootings, and other violent crimes continue to drop. This is true. I wrote about this recently. Did a lot of reading about it, where murders and stuff are down from pandemic numbers, of course, lockdown numbers, but all the shoplifting continues to go up. So they actually had I believe there's a 1% increase in overall crime in New York City. Commissioner Soule said the situation demanded a perpetual carousel of police resources. New York doesn't care about you, man. We've gone, Eric, on this show, to be fair, a carousel of stories, from people not being able to afford rent to all this crime happening. You've got murders on the subway. You've got what's the other thing I was going to mention? Oh, the illegal migrant problem filling up the hotels. And what do they do every?
Oh, you mean the asylum seekers? Those are asylum seekers. That's all legal.
Yes, very good. My apologies. Which are far more likely to work than illegal immigrants. Let me remind you, people who are refugees have a extreme less than 10%. And this, I know I'm basing this off of Canadian numbers, but I'm fairly certain it's going to be in the general ballpark. Let's be generous. Less than 25% of refugees ever have full-time jobs. But all these things involved in New York, and they always blame it on somebody else or something else. All the murder and crimes in New York City, well, it's the police's fault, and it's also, racism is a problem. It's uninhabitable price-wise to live in New York City. Well, that's gentrification. That's people coming in. Okay, well, there's, crime in the hotels. They're all filled up with asylum seekers. It's dirty. There's not hotel rooms for people to use. There's people who don't speak English in our city. There's people who don't who aren't working, and they're living off the system in our city. Oh, well, that's actually Greg Abbott's fault and Joe Biden's fault, even though we're a sanctuary city and we welcomed this stuff less than a year ago. It's always somebody else's fault, and the solution is, help us, but also blame the same people. Help us, police, but also we hate you. Help us, Joe Biden,
Yes.
but we also hate you. Republicans are racist. They should let more people in. Well, they've let too many people in our place. Now we understand what it's like down there. Like, every solution they have is blaming somebody else, and it's never the person who's actually in charge. In a just society, these people would step down and be like, I can't handle this. Clearly, I'm doing a terrible job. If you worked at a Home Depot or a Walmart, and you were in the grocery center, you were constantly dropping watermelons or what else can shatter, or glass bottles on the ground, you might think, maybe I'm not having fun here. And this has happened to me in sports before. This happened to me when I was in soccer as a child. I was like 12 years old. They put me in a rep program for free, Eric. I'm not bragging. I'm not even Portuguese or Italian. And they put me in this fancy soccer thing, and I'm like, this isn't fun. I know I'm not that good at soccer, and I'm not having fun here. I don't want to do this anymore. We need that in politics. If you work, like I said, if you work in a Walmart and you're dropping produce on the ground every day, you should probably think that you're not meant to be there, and you should probably leave, or you should be fired. This is what's happening in New York, Eric. He's doing such a terrible job so quickly. Crime is up. You have all these asylum seekers. Rent is out of control. People are, this stuff is happening on your beautiful subway system, Mayor Adams. You do this walk around New York and you can't find anything that's wrong. Let's decriminalize more things. Let's let people out of jail so much that 327 people can actually run a crime syndicate in the city. So much so that even though we've dropped the crime rates of other crimes, the overall rate still goes up. And we know who they are, but we can't name them, because what's going to happen if we name them? Then we're going to find out who they're connected to and why they get let out, and this, that, and the other. It's all the Epstein list, Eric. It's all a microcosm of you cannot find out about this because it will make you not want to elect us anymore. And scene.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been through this before, right? But that you say all that, I guess, using the premise that they actually want to help, right? We know it's a managed decline. We know it's all on purpose. So obviously, they don't want to fix anything. That's not the goal. The goal is to completely destroy the city and siphon the taxpayers dry, right? So you're going to pay 3.5% city on top of state and the federal. The trash is never going to get picked up. The trains aren't going to work. The cops aren't going to come when you call them, but they are going to continue to collect cash. And now we have, I think it was just a couple days ago, they approved a congestion fee for drivers below 60th. And to be honest with you, I thought it was below 14th. So they're basically taking out nearly all of Manhattan, right? So below 60th, bro, like, I mean, Central Park starts at 59th, I believe. So they want the entirety of Central Park and below. You have to pay just to drive on the roads down there. Now it's not finalized, but they approved something. So I mean, yeah, they're gonna charge you more money. Nothing's going to get fixed because that's obviously that's obviously not what they want. And another thing to your point about the gentrification, I saw it firsthand in Oakland, and it's very similar. We know that that California, New York are obviously going to play directly from the same corruption playbook, as I like to call it. But in as the Oakland natives will call it, like deep East Oakland, right? Like arguably, one of the worst hoods perhaps in the country. I don't know, St. Louis, Chicago, there's a lot of pretty rough areas, but East Oakland is not a place you really want to hang out. There's the joke that if you see a closed church as chicken, then you're probably in a place you shouldn't be. And there's notoriously a shuttered church as chicken in East Oakland. But my point is, when you talk about gentrification, I remember there was some sort of application for a Starbucks, and maybe I've brought this up on the show before, I can't recall, but a Starbucks wanted to open up in East Oakland. And I mean, if I recall correctly, and this might be something worth Googling, they were putting in all these extra permits, and there was going to be a community center. It was going to be like this huge Starbucks, and they were going to basically, you know, they were going to employ people in the hood, and it was going to be all well and good. But then they cried gentrification. So the same people in Oakland that are crying because you got no sports teams left, the arena where the Warriors used to play, where the A's used to play, where the Raiders used to play, it's all just become a homeless encampment. There's literal parks that are supposed to be for children that are occupied by homeless people. You can see the needles. I mean, you can see the tents, you can see it all. So when those residents, and I'm sure there are a bunch of residents who don't like to see that stuff. So when people call for a little bit of a cleanup, and then Starbucks, excuse me, I don't know where I got Subway from. Maybe it's because I'm sitting in the Subway. Then Starbucks comes in and wants to quote unquote help. Now, look, I don't love Starbucks. I don't know what their intentions are, but if they were going to jump through these hoops and create a community center and employ people that live in the neighborhood, but then you call that gentrification because they always want it both ways, because they don't want to not be able to complain about something, right? Like if anything were to get fixed, then what are we going to do? We're going to have nothing to complain about. We're going to have no wedge issue. We're not going to have anything to we're going to be bored. So we can't actually fix these problems. We're just going to, because they don't want to fix the problems. They just want to be angry on its most surface level, right? And it goes much deeper than that. But the bottom line is they just want to be angry. They don't want to fix any problems. And Eric Adams is a picture. I mean, the epitome of pretending to fix the problem when obviously it's never going to happen.
If San Francisco, Chicago, New York, these are places where they have had zero conservative right-wing resistance in legislature at all, and they want to act like this is still somebody else's fault. It's over, bro. I'm ready to let these places collapse and just be like, hey, this is what you wanted, and there's no turning back from this. I
think they have collapsed.
Well, yeah. I don't know what you're sending me here.
Have you seen this? Or I don't know if you can I don't know. This is a recent scene in Oakland. Like, we know this to be Oakland for certain. It's the same account that I sent you last week, where we saw the guy smashing up a Walmart, which I think was it's the Bay Area, right? It's like if you're familiar with New York, you realize that they got the F5. It's the greater metro area, kind of like we have here in the Phoenix metro area as well. But this is just a crazy video of just the demise of look. I don't want to like be the guy like clutching my pearls like this crazy conservative right wing podcast host is just up in arms about this scene, but it's like, dude, this is Oakland has always been pretty rough. New York has always been pretty rough, but this is just beyond the pale, bro. This wasn't happening a decade ago, and I know a decade sounds like a long time, but look, in 2013, this wasn't even a thing, and now you have left wing commentators. This guy who kind of he clearly takes his cues from Hassan Piker. He's just a weirdo commie leftist on Instagram and Twitter. But they kind of want to play this game like the guy who was talking to Tim Pool, like, why do you care about their sexual feeling? And it's like he says like, I look at this video and I see conservatives just clutching their pearls like they're such prudes. It's like, dude, you live in a dystopia created by thugs and corrupt politicians, and they've put a burning towel, a Molotov cocktail, into the gas tank of a car on a Friday night for fun. Is there sound?
Y'all are fucking clowns, bruh. Bruh, what the fuck?
Sounds like anomaly.
Oh, shit!
I just don't see the appeal of trying to do that. Somebody's smashing another car into it, and then jumps out as if they've done something amazing.
It's back in. Now, do we think that's his car?
No.
Where did that car go?
This is like the episode of The Simpsons where Homer and his friends put pots and pans on their head and run into each other in the backyard. And because this guy's just crashing into this other car, and the crowd's cheering. Like, this is the dumbest, like...
And obviously, he's stolen a car. That's just on the next level.
This is the dumbest form, the lowest brow of entertainment. Let's just set this car on fire, then we'll run another car into it. It's different if this is in your backyard or on your property, but this stuff belongs to somebody else. Like, that's insane. Let's see.
So hopefully,
go ahead.
I would like to see I was just gonna say I would like to see a follow up on that. I don't think it's hit the mainstream just yet, so I don't know if we know exactly why they were doing. I don't think it has anything to do with this guy out in New York. I think it's just gotten to the point where that's a regular Friday night for these people. Like, that's an entertaining Friday night. It's crazy.
Let's see if we can hear from Bill Maher.
Kind of out of control. I was reading that in New York, a third of all the shoplifting cases are by 327 people in a city of 8 million. Because they keep getting returned to the streets. Like, most of the shootings are young black men killing other young black men. Is that not correct? Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Why aren't there, 100 giant black celebrities who would have the respect of those people saying, what are you doing to yourselves?
Well, Eric, that's a great place to end it. You look shocked for some reason.
Yeah, that was racist.
Okay, just confirming. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram. Report and Opine is Eric. Andrew does. DOES is myself. And of course, if you're listening, give us a 5-star review. And all of you, no matter if you're watching or listening, go to patreon.com/UOPod. There's an extra podcast every week with an extra segment because the audio version comes out on streaming platforms, but then we do an extra segment, but you'll get all the video and early access to other stuff as well. Eric Butler. Shout out Not Intimidated and Robotech 2. 2. See you guys next week. Week.
Turn it up, Jordan.